All right, so this is our My Notre Dame page. On the My Notre Dame page, you're going to see agenda for the week, links to stuff. I'm recording what we're doing right now. I'm going to try to anyways, every one of our lectures. I'll post the link to the video here in the links page or the links area. So if you're ever absent or you just need to go back and see something again, it's there. It's for you. I try to make sure these are there every day. Being as you're the last hour, sometimes they won't get posted till tomorrow morning because it takes like almost as long as the video is in minutes to like upload to YouTube. And by the time I get home and like do my stuff, I usually forget about it and I get it first thing the next morning. But they'll be there, I promise. Announcements has my contact info on there. Downloads, I'll put in like the week. The archived agendas, and I have the syllabus sign-in sheet we'll talk about in a minute. And then the syllabus is right there also. Everybody feel good about the My Notre Dame page? Pretty simple. It's all just going to be one page. There's nowhere else to go other than right here. So it's all in one place for you. Okay. Syllabus time. So I use OneNote to do my notes. You guys are welcome to do your notes in a notebook or on OneNote. Either is fine, as long as it seems like you're actually using your tablet to take notes with. There are no problems. If I feel like you're watching YouTube videos or like shopping for prom dresses or whatever, we'll deal with that then. But and again, I'm just kind of dipping in and out and talking about the important stuff that might be different than a typical class. The grade breakdown, 50% comes from your test grade, 10 from the homework quizzes. We'll talk about what that is, 25 from homework and 15 from exams. Grades are the same grades as always. Help CT is the best time to get me. Mornings used to be good, but now I have my daughters going to the little school, so it's like a whole thing getting her over there from here in the morning. So that becomes a little harder to get a hold of me, but you can try, To get the fancy certificate at the award ceremony, you need to do 93 or better in both semesters. The homework. So we're going to be assigning homework most days. So we'll have like a weekly problem set. Those weekly problem sets are going to be turned into OneNote. We'll talk a little bit about how that happens a little bit later. So like, let's say we have class on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'll give you a little bit of homework on Monday and Wednesday and Friday. The Monday, Wednesday stuff that we've had a chance to talk about before the Sunday at midnight would be the stuff that would be due in the problem set for Sunday at midnight. The stuff that we did on Friday would be into next week's problem set. So again, that gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of getting things done. So if you have a hectic night with sports or grandma's birthday or you didn't feel good or whatever, you can kind of shuffle around your work so that you're able to kind of make your life a little bit more manageable. That being said, what you don't want to do is turn Sunday into a week's worth of math day, right? Math is one of these courses where you don't want to do sprint, coast, sprint, coast, sprint, coast. Like do a lot of work and then do nothing, do a lot of work and do nothing. Because what we do if we have class Monday, Wednesday, Friday, what we do on Monday matters for what we're doing on Wednesday, and what we did on Wednesday matters for what we're doing on Friday. So like you want to make sure that you're kind of doing some work along the way so that you're not like, by the time we get to Friday, kind of clueless still, right? So again, you don't have to do everything during the course of the week, but you should be doing things during the course of the week, right? Do something. Keep picking away at things. Do some parts of it. Like even if you're like, do half of it, do a quarter of it, do something to keep, so you're reinforcing what we're doing in class. You know what I mean? In addition to the weekly problem sets, I'll probably have some things that are due that day. Those things that are due that day will be online through Delta Math, and we'll talk about what that's going to look like a little bit later. First year trying to do this, so we'll see how things go. But any questions about the way the homework is going to be set up here? We'll talk more about it as we get to it. Everybody's cool still? Okay. The late assignments, so this is just straight from the handbook. And I will say here for the first month or so on this 1 week, on the first, the late ones for 1 week, a lot of issues happen initially turning in homeworks with like syncing your Onenote. And we'll talk about what that means in a minute. But in that case, it's one of those, like if you notice something got missing or incompleted or whatever, you're like, I did this. It's one of those things you just email me, and the first month or so we'll just give that as a grace as long as it's in that same week. Because these things that are due Sunday at midnight, I'm going to tell you a little secret. I'm not sitting up Sunday at midnight waiting to grade your homework, right? I'm going to grade these on Monday or Tuesday during the course of the week. So again, as I put those grades in, if you notice like I marked you missing or incomplete or whatever, you're like, I did that, it's probably a syncing issue. We'll talk about what that means when we do the Onenote stuff. But that's something you can just email me about and be like, hey, you know, I think this didn't sync right. I resynced it. Can you check again? No big deal. Again, for the first month or so, like that's all gratis. Like I'm not going to, you know, worry about late stuff for things that are technology late, not really late. You know what I mean? That you tried in best intentions to have it on time and you goof something up, and because it's the first time using it and you're not really sure, and we'll figure it out. Okay. The homework quizzes. So there will be typically about one of these per chapter. I say at least one. Sometimes there's more than one. They're unannounced, but usually I give you a hint that something is coming. They're going to be based on recent homework assignments. They're closed book. And they're graded on a 10-point scale based on demonstration of understanding. So what that means is like maybe there's 3 problems on the homework quiz. You get one of them wrong. It's not like 2 out of 3. You know, if you get it wrong because it's like some minor mistake, like you dropped a negative sign, like that's a 9 or a 10, right? Like you made a transcription error. You know, you get something wrong because you made like an algebra mistake, but not necessarily like the stuff we're studying. Maybe that's like a 9 or an 8. You know, like you get all of them wrong, but you had like the rightish idea for all of them, probably a 7 or an 8, right? Like it's very realistic to do, or it's very unrealistic to do really bad on these if you're kind of know what's going on and you're doing kind of the right things. Okay. And again, since they're unannounced, I feel like this is a fairer way of grading something where it's like you didn't really know that was coming, so we're not going to just mark right and wrong. We're going to just be like, oh, okay, that's, you know, like B level, A level, C level kind of work based on, you know, what you've shown me, right? Does that feel fair? Okay. Tests are at the conclusion of each chapter, partial credit based on, or for both, most questions based on the work demonstrated. If you're an extra time on assessments person, we want to take care of that in advance and arrange it through counseling. All I ask is typically you take the test in one setting, even if you get like time and a half or whatever your accommodation is. So if it can't be done in my classroom because time permitting, set that up with counseling ahead of time and it's no big deal. Or Mr. Durkin, I think maybe is the person. I don't know anymore. You know, though, if you're that person. Dress code, you guys are sophomores and juniors. You guys know what the dress code is, right? Computer usage, it's the same thing from the handbook. Academic honesty, same thing from the handbook. Absences. So if you're absent on a homework quiz day, again, you might not know there's a homework quiz that day because they're unannounced. I'm usually very good about, if you're absent on a homework quiz day, missing it, putting it as a missing in the grade book that same day that it occurred. So if you see that pop up and you need to make that up, just come by during CT time. Any day CT is fine with me, as long as you're able to leave community time. And we'll just do it in class. These are things that are designed, the homework quiz is designed to be like 15, 20 minute tops. So it's very realistic to finish one of these things during community time. If you're absent on a test day, you're going to need to make that up either in your study hall or the testing room. The testing room is Tuesday mornings and Thursdays after school. I think I have some times on there, although I don't think it's 6:30 anymore. I think it's like 6:50 or something now. The only thing I ask with the makeup test is that within a week of you being absent, that you've talked to me and told me like what your plan is. Doesn't need to be made up within a week, but you're like, okay, you know, I'm going to take the test Friday after next in my study hall. Great. Easy. You know, I'm not going to complain about it typically. Cool. Snow days, blah, blah, blah. End of semester. So at the end of the semester, I'm going to drop a low homework score. I'm going to drop a low homework quiz grade. I'm going to either give you the option of doubling a high test score or doing a test retake for a specific chapter with a maximum value capped at 85%. We'll talk about that more at the end of the semester because that's really when that is going to apply. Nothing happens till kind of all the tests are taken. And the plan for this semester is to cover the first 6 or 7 chapters here. We'll play that by ear, but usually that's pretty realistic for the honors course. Any syllabus questions? If you wanted to look at this again, what do you need to do? Or where do you go? Minor grade. Great. One thing I'm going to ask you to do is that there is at the end of the syllabus a syllabus sign-in sheet that I'd like for you and your parent to complete. You can do that paper and pencil, or you can do it in OneNote. We'll talk about how to do that. And you're going to turn it in OneNote. We'll talk about how to do that in a minute. So on My Notre Dame, where we had the syllabus sign-in sheet, is just the last page of the syllabus with the sign-in sheet on it without all the rest of this stuff. If you just want, like, I don't want to print 4 pages of your mumbo jumbo, I'm just going to show them my computer and ask them to sign this thing or whatever. You know, I just tried to make it easy. You know what I mean? All right. Any questions about that stuffs? Okay. We're going to set up our shared OneNote notebooks now. So I need you to take out your tablets, turn them on, and load Microsoft Teams. Today will be the only day we use Microsoft Teams for the semester.
Kraken is like a pig, it's like the squid. A crank is
Again, if you don't remember where Microsoft Teams is on your computer, the easiest way to do is click that magnifying glass at the bottom and just type in Teams. It should pop up as the options on your search. So once you got your computer on and all booted up and everything, go ahead and open up Microsoft Teams right away. Expand that out so you can see it on your full screen, because sometimes you can't see the options. Once you've got Microsoft Teams loaded, which it looks like everybody was starting to do or had already done, you'll want to hit the Teams button on the side tab, and you should see an option for 4th hours trigonometry, although you guys that changed your schedules recently might not have that option. Who are my schedule changers? Okay. Let me see. So Giselle Yaldo. Okay, and Caitlin Kahn. How did I say that wrong? Oh, you know, somebody was snickering. I didn't know if I was.
It was because it's like the first count, so it's like first.
Oh, cool! I did it.
Yeah.
And then Ava Rorin. Okay, so we'll add you guys right now. So if you refresh, you should see that 4th hour pop in. You might have to like close and reopen to get it to refresh if it's not working for you. You guys cool with what to do though? Okay, we're going to go ahead and click on that one that says 4th hour honors trigonometry. When you do that, you should be at a page like this. Anybody not there other than the 3 that just I had to add in that may be a little behind.
I'm just trying to get on the Wi-Fi right now.
Okay.
Okay, I cannot get on.
You might have to just use the guest
Oh, wait.
instead of the student one, because there was some stuff you had to do at the end of last year to switch, and you probably didn't remember to do it, or you haven't. But the guest, you should be able to get on with no credentials. The student one, you have to like re-enter your username and password stuff, and I forget how to exactly do that. But if you switch to guest, you should have connectivity. Did it work?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. Yeah, if you're having trouble, like speak up, right? We don't want to. Obviously, we're recording this, so you could go back and watch it later to refollow the steps. But like, you're here. Why not try to, make the most of our time? All right. So we're here, right? We've clicked on 4th hour from the Teams section. Now what we're going to do is on the sidebar where it says Class Notebook, we're going to click on that. If you are one of the 3 that we just added, the OneNote part here on the right that's showing here is going to take a long time to load in. Like you may end up having to check back at the end of the hour to see if it's loaded in. It could be like 30, 40 minutes before it loads in. This is why I try to do this like a couple days before, so everybody else, it's like instantaneous. But if you had a schedule change and we just added you now, it's going to take some time. Anybody other than those 3 that I know are going to be a little bit behind right here, but it's no big deal. You're not in trouble. It's the way it is. Anybody else not here? Excellent. All right, one more step. At the top of the OneNote bar where it says Open in Browser, go ahead and click that to get the drop down and pick Open in Desktop. You can ignore the little pop-up that came up. It'll just open up OneNote for you automatically as soon as you do that. And it will load in your shared notebook. And it should look something like this, except just the 2 tabs and your name up here at the top. I'm going to walk by and just check to make sure everybody's gotten this far. If you have, just sit and relax for a minute while I walk in you and see where we're at.
Oh, I have it.
Okay. And you're waiting.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yes! Yes, sir. Okay. If I forget to tell you, just wait a minute. Out. Any other early semester people here today? Okay. You put your where you're doing. That's because you are instead of You're doing it right now. And you are your stuff waiting. All right. So a little bit about OneNote. How many of us have used like a shared notebook for a class on OneNote before? Half-ish, maybe more. Some of us are just shy and aren't raising our hands very high. Going through what we have here, the collaboration space. Anybody can write and edit in that. I don't use it at all. For this class, you can ignore the collaboration space. The content library. This is where I'm going to share the majority of documents with you guys. I'll share all my notes here. I will share the textbook pages and the textbook's problems and the odd solutions and all that stuff. I'll just dump in here as well, so you don't have to bother downloading stuff from My Notre Dame. There's a link on My Notre Dame to the textbook parts, but it's pretty easy to just dump them in here and you go from here. And then you'll have a section with like your name on it, right? So inside your name tab, there are 3 tabs. There's a place for archived homework. That would be homework that's already been turned in and already been graded. there'll be a tab for current homework. That's stuff that would be due at the next problem or the next homework check. And then a place for notes and handouts. If you're doing notes and handouts, if you're collecting those things, there's a space for that. Everybody cool? So the one thing to keep in mind here is the way that the shared OneNote works. So if I do something on my computer has to send that information up to the cloud, and then your computer has to pull that information down from the cloud to your machine before you can see anything that I do, right? That's how these linked notebooks are set up. How fast is that process? Sometimes fast, sometimes slow, right? The thing you have to be careful about is if you're trying to do your, putting your homework in your OneNote so I can see it, we have to make sure that we've synced everything correctly, right? So when you're doing your homework, does that mean that you have to write your homework in your OneNote? No, you can if you want, totally fine. If you want to do your homework on paper, that's fine. To turn it into OneNote then, what do you need to do? Take a picture and dump that picture into OneNote. Do we know how to do this? Let's practice. Okay, what are you going to take a picture with? Well, what else could you use? Let's use your phone. Your camera on your phone is massively better than the camera on your tablet. Take your phone out. Take a picture of something, anything. I don't care what it is. This is just practice, right? Once you've taken your picture, email that picture to yourself. Send it to your Notre Dame email account. Once you've sent your email to yourself, open up your email on your tablet. Find that email you sent to yourself. And then you'll need to download that picture to your tablet. So, like you have your email, find your picture, you do the download, and then I would save it to just your desktop or something, someplace where it's going to be easy to find it. So you pick like desktop, do save, and then all we need to do, one more, is to just take whatever that was and just drag it into OneNote and let go. You'll pick insert printout and boom, it'll drop that in there in a second. It's if it wasn't being done. Try it again.
Oh yeah.
Ugh. And then boom, right? Dropped in. All right. Anybody still trying to drop this in? Okay.
Wait, my phone doesn't have Wi-Fi, so can I just do it at my house?
It's just an example. You don't even have to do it. You don't even have to do it at your house. It's just like demonstrate how this works, right? It's just a good excuse to practice. You could just use any file you want, right?
Wait,
So you open your email, and then where the attachment at the bottom of the email, don't open it. Just look at the attachment at the bottom. If you cursor over it, it should have the arrow, the down arrow. That's the download option. So just save that someplace where you remember. I usually just use the desktop because it's super easy to find it then because it's just on the desktop. And you just drag the icon into your OneNote where you want to put it. Done. And it's that easy. And look, I have Elena's notebook open, and there's her pictures come through.
That is atrocious.
Super fun, right, guys? All right. Elena, how long has that been sitting on your end there before it just popped up? Probably a minute or two, right?
Yeah, like maybe done.
Yeah. So what took so long getting it from her end to my end? Her tablet had to send that information up to the cloud. My computer had to pull that information back from the cloud to it. Your OneNote doesn't continuously send stuff to the cloud. So one thing you can do to force it to send that information, this is an important step here, folks, is if you take your mouse and you right-click on the name of the notebook, right where it says like 4th hour, blah, 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 and you hit sync this notebook now, you get this little red or green circle here. That's your OneNote syncing. When that green circle goes away, it means that everything is synced up and you're good. This is the step that most students, if they have a late homework assignment, have kind of goofed, is they did their OneNote not on Wi-Fi and then forgot to put it back on Wi-Fi to sync it. Or they dumped a bunch of pictures in there and then closed OneNote real quick and didn't give it a chance to sync. Before you finish putting a homework assignment in there, just sync your notebook and wait a minute. Now mine is taking forever long to sync. See the green circle still up there. Why is it taking so long? Because every single one of you probably have a picture in there that it's now trying to pull down from the cloud. So it's a lot of information. If your end, if you tried to do the sync your notebook now, it's going to go, like 30 seconds and it's going to be done. Yes, sir.
So should we do the sync now thing or never turn something in?
Yeah, I would say before you close your OneNote, if you put something new in there that you need me to see, just hit the sync. And if you have lots of these shared notebooks, if you do notebook sync status, it shows all of your notebooks and you can sync them all at the same time. And it gives you a status bar on there so you're like sure that it's done, which is nice too. That goes the same thing if you're looking for something that I said should be in your OneNote and you're like, I don't see it. What's the issue? You probably need to sync my stuff down from the cloud, right? Okay. Everybody feel, obviously you're not experts right yet, but feel okay? Again, if you have trouble and you need some help, feel free to let me know. I'd be happy to help. If you don't want these embarrassing pictures you took of your neighbors, you can delete them out of your OneNote. We don't need them there. It was just an example of how we go about doing this, right? We just did it as an example. I don't want to see any of your embarrassing pictures, so you can get rid of all of them.
Do you put it in the current notebook tab? That's where you put it in, or you put it in the notes tab?
So it doesn't matter where you're putting the picture because.
I mean,
Oh, so things that are to be checked or that I haven't checked yet go in the current.
Yeah.
Once I've checked them, you can move them into the archived, and anything you're doing for yourself can just go in the notes and handouts.
So, for example, the syllabus, you want it in the.
You don't have to put it anywhere. I just put it in the content library so you can see it.
But then, for you to check that.
Oh, the sign-in sheet.
Yeah,
yes, the sign-in sheet. You should put in the current homework.
Got it.
Yeah, good question. So if you look in the content library, you see that syllabus or sign-in sheet is in the content library. All of you guys should copy this from the content library. So just right-click on it and select copy. You'd use from the pages view right over here on the right. and then just move that to, the current homework tab. And if you right click, you can paste it in there, and then it's in there. If you're planning on having your parents sign it, they can just sign it in OneNote. It doesn't have to be signed on a paper and then like pictured in. You could do it that way if you want, but if you just hand them your tablet and be like, sign this for me, please, that's good too. Yes?
If I want a pen for my
A stylus.
stylus thing, should I get one?
I think it would be really helpful.
Yeah, can you like buy them here?
I think you can, so the replacement one you could buy through the school is like the Microsoft brand one that's rather pricey. But I think that like almost any stylus that will work on a touchscreen will work. So you can probably get one for like $20 on Amazon, as your neighbor just whispered to you. But if you wanted to go through the school, I think if you talk to IT, they could help you with doing that. You're welcome. All right. OneNote. Done with that. For today, anyways. Microsoft Teams you can close. You'll never have to open again for this class. The other thing we said that we're going to use to do homework was this Delta Math thing. So if you look at your My Notre Dame bulletin board, notice under the links there's a Delta Math registration tab. So if you guys can pull back up your My Notre Dame page, go to the bulletin board for this class, and go ahead and click on the Delta Math registration. It's going to take you there with the access code already in there. And then you guys will just pick register with Google. Use your Notre Dame email account. And it's done. The registration is done. It's over. We did it. Yay! So take a minute and burn through that. If you have a question, let me know. All we did was Delta Math registration and then register with Google, and just use your Notre Dame Google or email account as your Google account. Super easy. Took 3 clicks or whatever, right? All right. We're not going to do any more Delta Math things today. We'll talk about how to log in and find homework assignments and stuff that I put in there a little later, but we're not going to assign anything today. Everybody's cool? So notice on My Notre Dame, there's a regular Delta Math link that'll take you to the login screen or the main page without the registration stuff. That's what you'd use from here on out, right? You only have to do the registration one time. If you did it today, no more registration. Cool? The first Delta Math assignment we'll probably do in class, so you guys can ask me questions and if there's troubles. Cool? No big deal? Everybody good? All right. Ooh, somebody put their syllabus sign-in sheet into the collaboration space. That's a goof. That's okay. All right. Today, or the remaining time we have, next 40 minutes or so, 35 minutes, we're going to talk about the course and kind of where we're starting and where we're going. Okay? This is like preliminary kind of stuff. This wouldn't be things I would necessarily explicitly test on. But they're just kind of like what foundations from previous courses are we drawing on and kind of where are we going with these foundations. The place where I'm going to do these notes is in the content library, which means that all of you will have access to everything that I write down in your OneNote. So you can, if you are a notes person and you want to write stuff down, please write stuff down in your notebook, on your OneNote, whatever your preference is. If you're I just want to sit and listen because that's the way I process things better, that's fine. everything that I write down in the OneNote is going to be in your OneNote, in the content library. Everything that I say is being recorded in the video. So you have a record of everything. Whatever you feel most comfortable with is perfectly fine with me. Do what feels good to you. If you want to experiment and see like which one works better for me, figure it out. I was never a person that could sit and listen and process and like retain anything. I needed to write stuff down because that's the psycho that I am. Unless the things were moving at like 100 miles an hour, in which case it's like if I am too busy writing, I can't listen, but we'll try not to go 100 miles an hour. You know what I mean? Okay. So the title for this course is Trigonometry. What root word do you see in there? Yeah. Which makes you think of triangles. Excellent. And then ometry is what? Yeah, like study of. So this course is like the study of triangles. Okay. What previous math course did we deal with triangles in? Geometry. Okay. So that's where we're going to be discussing our foundations from. This course becomes like a mashing together of algebra and geometry. Basically, we're going to take these geometry concepts and take it out of a geometric setting and push it into an algebraic setting. Kind of weave those two course topics together. But it's been a while since we've been in geometry class and talked about triangles for most of us. So let's do a little bit of what do we remember from geometry about triangles. So what's something that we remember about triangles from geometry? Yes.
Pythagorean theorem.
Pythagorean theorem. Great. Carmen. Okay. I'm just going to practice names as you guys are telling me stuff. And I'm going to take a minute here. What is the Pythagorean theorem? Okay, I would say that's slightly incomplete because it's a little bit more specific than that. Yes, Nolan?
Right triangle, two legs, length square, head up to the length of the hypotenuse.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a couple more pieces in there, right? We need to have a right triangle to use the Pythagorean theorem. And A and B have to be the legs of the triangle, and C has to be the hypotenuse, right? So for a right triangle, triangle ABC, where and when we name triangles like this, I name the angles with capital letters. I'm going to name the side opposite that angle with the lowercase letter, right? So the side BC would be lowercase a, AC would be lowercase b, and AB would be lowercase c. We can say that. Everybody's okay with that? Again, we're being a little sloppy with the notes, but we're talking through most of this, right? This should be things that we just kind of remember. The big piece, as Nolan pointed out, we had to have a right triangle, and A and B are legs, and C is the hypotenuse. Everybody else probably remembered, or I'm sure everybody remembered A squared plus B squared equals C squared. That's a tough one to forget. It's like your ABCs. All right, great. Talika, you had your hand up.
Oh, I was just going to say that they added 280 degrees.
The interior angles of a triangle. add to 180 degrees. That's the Triangle Sum Theorem was the name. Maybe we should be specific here and say. Great. What else do we remember? Nolan?
Special right triangles.
Okay. Do you remember what the special right triangles were?
45, 90, 30, 60, 90.
Yeah. Excellent. So we had the 45, 45, 90. Write it this way. So the sides of a 45, 45, 90 triangle, the legs have length x, and then the hypotenuse has length x root 2, where x could be any number, right? And then the 30, 60, 90. Has side lengths x for the short side, x root 3 for the middle side, and 2x for the long side. Remember that the sides of a triangle are proportional to their angle measures. So like the shortest side is opposite the shortest angle, the middle side is opposite the middle angle, the longest side is opposite the longest angle. Which makes it easy to remember because 1, root 3, and 2, 1 is 1, root 3 is like 1.69 or something, and then 2 is the biggest. So small, medium, large. Matchup. You know what I mean? Cool. Great. What else? Right? Probably 50% of geometry is triangle stuff. There's a lot of it. You guys remember some more things? Giselle.
Gosh. Like sine, cosine, tangent.
Great. So I'm going to just write that as like SOHCAHTOA. Okay. So when can we use sine, cosine, and tangent? Nolan? Right triangle. Very good. And sine, cosine, tangent operate on what kind of quantities? So I can say sine, cosine, or tangent of what type of number? Angle measure, right? And what kind of angle measures do I have to use sine, cosine, and tangent of? In geometry, it could be radian or degree. That part doesn't matter. But what angles from the triangle? They have to be acute, right? In the right triangle, we have to use one of the other two angles. We can't use the 90-degree angle, or sine, cosine, tangent doesn't work, right? Everybody's okay? So I'm going to say with acute angle, and I'm going to name that acute angle theta. One of the conventions in trigonometry is that we use the Greek letters as the variables for angle measures, and we use the English letters as variables for side lengths. Do you have to do that? No, just the convention. Okay, so if you see some funny looking symbols, they're just Greek letters, they're variables. If you want to know what the letter is, I'll tell you, or I'll say it when I'm writing it. But theta is just like an O with a line through the middle. And as I'm writing any of this stuff, if you are having trouble reading my terrible penmanship, do not hesitate to ask what something says or what a letter is or a symbol or whatever. I acknowledge that my penmanship is often less than spectacular, and it tends to degrade as the day goes on. You guys are at the end of the day, so I'm not going to take it personally. If I make any kind of face, it's just because I'm frustrated at myself and my own lack of ability to effectively have good penmanship. It's my worst subject in elementary school. What can I say? I rush, and that gets me in trouble. Okay, so when we say opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse, if I draw a right triangle and I label, say, this is my angle theta. Let's just give these guys names, A, B, and C. Which side is, and I want to do sine of theta, what side is the opposite there? A. And the side that hypotenuse is C. We're always looking relative to the angle, so opposite the angle theta is A. Everybody remember that? Again, we're just kind of reviewing some of these little finer points and details because geometry was 2 years ago, and it's a long time to remember all of these details instantaneously, right? That's why we're going through and doing it again. Okay? If I did cosine of theta, we would say that adjacent is B and hypotenuse is C. And then obviously tangent opposite over adjacent would just be A over B, since we've already established what opposite and adjacent were. Everybody okay with that? So the big takeaway, theta has to be an angle measure, right? You can't take sine, cosine, and tangent of any number. Doesn't work on side lengths, it works on angle measures. A, B, and C are, or opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse are side lengths, right? Is the question, or you just stretch it? Okay, you stretch it out. All right. What else? Nolan? Okay, I didn't remember. I wasn't sure if you would have seen those or not, but those are also 3 other ratios. No? Okay. Okay, that's okay. Here's the thing, right? If we look at these 3 ratios, we have 3 labels, right? We got 3 labels, right? Opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse. And you can take 2 of them to make a ratio, right? How many ways can we make a pair 2 things from a list of 3 things? 6. How many ratios do I have here? 3.
Oh.
What are the other 3? Why don't I have hypotenuse over opposite, or hypotenuse over adjacent, or adjacent over opposite? You could, right? There's no reason we couldn't form those. The names we give those are cosecant, secant, and cotangent. That's all these are. So cosecant is hypotenuse over opposite. Secant is hypotenuse over adjacent. And cotangent is adjacent over opposite.
What's the last one? What's the name of it?
Cotangent. Does anyone notice a relationship between sine, cosine, tangent, and then cosecant, secant, and cotangent? They're reciprocals, right? Yes, of course. Again, some of us might have missed this in their geometry class. Not everybody goes that deep into the right triangle trig section to mention sine, or cosecant, secant, and cotangent. That's okay if this is the first time you're seeing it. We'll do this again in depth later. But this is all true. And things you could have seen in your geometry class, just depending on how in-depth your geometry class went. Not everybody's geometry class covers the same stuff, right? Okay, there's at least one more big idea that you would have talked about in geometry, and maybe this idea, maybe we haven't come to this because it's not specific to triangles, but certainly you would have used it a lot on triangles. Nolan? That's not what I was thinking of, but that's something we could do. I'm going to omit that for now because it's not directly related to building out the trigonometry stuff that we're about to do. Think about your theorems that we abbreviated with 3 letters. Toluca? Talika. Yeah, and what do those theorems do? Those are for congruence and similarity. So you had side, side, side. That was one of them. You have side, angle, side. You have angle, side, angle. And you have angle, angle, side. I guess those are all specific. Well, I mean, yeah, that's fine. We'll be a little too general there, but that's okay. What does it mean when 2 geometric figures are congruent? Nolan? Yeah, they're basically identical, right? You have 2 geometric figures that are congruent. Everything is the same except possibly the labels, right? And then the single squiggle is similarity. What does similarity mean? Nolan?
So they have like the same ratio of things, but they're not the same size.
Okay, very good. So the angle measures will all be the same because they're going to be the same shape. What will be different is their proportion, right? Is that they're essentially a dilation of one another. You remember the word dilation? Or it's just like an enlargement. So if one triangle has side lengths 3, 4, 5, a triangle that's similar to it might have side lengths 6, 8, 10, or just like a 2 times scaling. Of course, you can go right now if you need to. It's not a big deal. Yes.
What's that called? Is that called
Similarity. Similarity is the green one, and yellow was congruence. What's the relationship between similarity and sine, cosine, tangent? Nolan?
If 2 triangles are similar, like the angles will have the same sine, cosine, and tangent.
Yeah, so if we have 2 angles that are, or 2 triangles that are similar, so let's just say here's triangle ABC, and let's just say for the sake of argument, this is a 3, 4, 5 triangle. And then we have this other triangle, we'll call this just DEF, and let's say that's a 6, 8, 10 triangle. So we know these 2 triangles are similar, right? We can see that because the side lengths are proportional. Everybody's cool with that? So we know that angle B and angle E are the same, and we know angle D and angle A are the same, right? So if we take sine of angle A should equal sine of angle D, right? We know sine of angle A is opposite over hypotenuse, and we know sine of angle D is opposite over hypotenuse. And 6 over 10 just reduces down to 3/5. That's what's going on. So the reason sine, cosine, tangent work is that that angle, that acute angle A, is going to be the same in every triangle that's similar to it, right? Because to show triangles are similar, enough would be like an angle-angle situation. Oops, I'd circle angle A. So the right angle is the same if we're doing sine, cosine, and tangent, because all triangles we can do sine, cosine, and tangent have right angles, right? Everybody agree? And any triangle then, right triangle that has acute angle A, all of those triangles are going to be similar, right? So the ratios of opposite over hypotenuse are all going to be the same. What sine is, it maps then that specific angle measure to that specific ratio. Because all right triangles with acute angle A all have the same ratio of side lengths, opposite over hypotenuse. So all we're doing is we're mapping that angle measure to that ratio, and the name we give that function is sine. So this works because we have similar triangles. That's the way we define this in geometry. Everybody's okay? This rings some bells, or at least like maybe fills in some blanks at least. We saw sine, cosine, tangent, we saw similarity. Maybe we didn't expressly get the relationship between the two when we did geometry. That's okay. And in fact, it's okay that we don't, if we're like, I kind of get it now, but I don't get it all the way, that's okay. So, yes, sir. Of course.
Sorry.
Yeah, put the doorstop in.
Okay.
So what we're going to do through most of the first half of first semester is going to be mainly, we're going to spend taking our geometric definition of sine, cosine, tangent that works in right triangle, or on the acute angles in right triangles. And we're going to extend that definition to use on angles of any size possible. So angles that couldn't even possibly be part of a triangle, we'd like to be able to do sine, cosine, and tangent on. That's going to require a more general definition of those functions. That's what we're going to spend really the first half of first semester doing, is kind of slowly building that out. So we're going to take a situation, sine, cosine, and tangent, that were described purely geometrically, right? Everything we needed to define sine, cosine, and tangent initially was using geometry. You just use similar triangles and created a mapping and defined these ratios, right? By the end of this course, triangles are gone. We have this new definition for sine, cosine, and tangent that's based on something entirely differently, but still holds in the right triangle cases, but also now works with any angle measure you want to give. Sine of 10,342.864321? Sure, no problem. Why would we care to do that? What in the world could be happening where we have something at 10,000 degrees in it? Car people in the room? Yes, anybody? No? How does a car basically work? The engine creates some energy, drive shaft turns, causes the wheels to spin, right? If you're spinning something in a circle, that can certainly exceed like 10 seconds of spinning could be a ton of degrees, right? Thousands, millions of degrees could be covered in like 10 seconds of a drive shaft spinning if you're going really fast. Lots of real world applications that include spinning objects can have degrees. We'd be interested in like rotations of thousands and millions of degrees, right? So it's helpful to have sine, cosine, and tangent where we can use in situations where no triangle is possible. It's not a geometric question anymore. It's something rotating that's a question. Does that kind of make sense? And you can imagine in the physical world, in an engineering world, lots of machines have rotating parts in them, right? That's pretty common. Talika. Of course. Did I do it right this time? Okay. Keep correcting me if I screw it up. Okay. I appreciate when you did it before. Okay. So, once we've done that, once we've taken our definitions of sine, cosine, and tangent and extended them out so that we can use them not just on acute angles, but angle measures of any size, we'll then look at some more applications. Okay, what are some of the rules that we can now use for this new system or new definition of sine, cosine, and tangent? So there's going to be new properties that we'll learn that we can use for sine, cosine, and tangent. And that'll take us through most of first semester. Second semester will be pre-calculus topics and maybe a little bit of leftover trigonometry things. The beautiful part about second semester is these new topics that we'll look at, like vectors or polar equations or parametric equations, all really boil down to being the same system as the trigonometry we built out in first semester. So the first semester stuff, the techniques that we use in first semester, pop up over and over and over again in second semester. So in my opinion, this course, first semester, can be difficult as we're figuring this out for the first time. And once we've got it, everything afterwards becomes much easier because it's kind of the same thing over and over and over again, which is lovely, right? If you're a math person, go on and study math, you're going to find out that this is not an accident, that there are like algebraic structures in mathematics, that like, oh, if like you have these collection of properties for a set, everything in there behaves the same. Like you have the same theorems, the same properties, the same techniques, the same solving problem, or the same solving techniques, the same algorithms, everything will work the same, or analogous anyways. You have to do like, with the set you're working on, obviously there can be differences, but like the process will be the same every single time, which is what we're seeing here. Now that's beyond the scope of what we're going to do in the class, to talk about like algebraic structure, but that's what's going on, which is awesome when you land in one of those algebraic structures, because once you've studied one of them, you kind of know enough about all of them. So yes, of course, no problem. Okay. Questions from you guys? Great. Okay, so the first thing that we'll do next time, I've made a assignment in Delta Math that's just practicing doing some of these right triangle trig skills from geometry. We'll start by taking a little bit of time and letting you guys work in class to do that, and then we'll jump into chapter 1 in the textbook or whatever. Everybody's okay with that plan? So we'll get a chance to see what this looks like. I've real talk, I haven't used this in a class before, so I'm going to kind of, you guys are going to be my guinea pigs and kind of see how this works. I think it'll be fine, but there's lots of options on creating the assignment. I just want to make sure that like what I'm doing doesn't make it just like a colossal pain in the butt or something that's too hard or whatever. So we'll start by doing that, and we'll work on that for 20 minutes or half an hour or something. And then we'll change gears and go on to something else after we've had some chance to give Mr. Kulik some feedback on how the program is working for you or whatever. Have your calculator ready, because you'll need it to do like sines, cosines, tangents stuff. We'll probably do a review problem or two, just as a refresher before we dive into that. So it's like, oh yeah, okay, I got it. But that'll be next time. So the only thing I have for you guys for this weekend is the syllabus sign-in sheet. Should go into your OneNote under the current homework tab. That's going to be the homework check for Sunday. You can ignore what I had as the agenda items because I didn't get as far as I thought I would today, but that's okay. When you look next week, you'll see the same the same stuff on the agenda. So we just today took what it did, Not that you guys did badly at all. You did a great job remembering your geometry things. So it just took longer to do like the OneNote stuff. Then it always takes longer to do that than I think.
Should we bring the syllabus into you, or do you want us to put it on the...
So all I need is in the in your tab in the current homework is to have the syllabus sign-in sheet there filled out with your name, signature, and your parent's signature. That's it. Or you could have a physical copy, take a picture, and drop the picture in if you want to do it that way. Whatever is easy for you, I am happy with. Okay, we'll stop here.